Hello and welcome to the Gonna Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, and for a first phone-in show in a little while. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Of course, the transfer window is still in full swing, but Arsenal season has got underway in probably the worst way. I mean, it could have been worse. We could have lost 3-0. Just think about it that way. So it could have been a little bit worse. But it has kind of brought forward a few debates and a few chats that need to be had. And one of those conversations is, of course, around our manager. And you guys know my feelings on this situation. You know that at the end of last season, my opinion was that pretty much any other club in our situation probably would have moved on from their coach had they finished in the same way. That hasn't happened in Arsenal's case. And obviously, we go into the new season, we've lost our first game. And it seems like not a real possibility, because my prediction will be that no matter what happens, the club won't act upon this. But it does seem like it's a situation that is growing increasingly amongst the fan base that they would like to see the manager change. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that don't share my perspective on this, and that's what's great about our show and what's great about football, is that we all have different opinions, and it's about how we put forth those opinions and respecting the other views of other people and asking them questions to try and make some sense of how they do think about their choices and about how they think about the club. And we're going to do a lot of that today as we get a few guests on. Some of these guys, in fact, I think all of these guys, none of them have been on before, which is great. And you know how much I love to get new people onto the show, getting their thoughts and feelings about about kind of the topics that we're going to talk about. So we've got plenty of new people that all are in the same boat. So there's no one making their debut and are going to be scared of the situation. They're all going to smash it, and we look forward to it. Anyway, what I should say is that, as always, in the first part of the season, the show is sponsored by the Arsenal Reviews Pick Your Team game. How many of you did get many right this weekend ahead of the game against Brentford? I think I got 9 right. I didn't think I predicted Martinelli or Chambers. I thought Arteta might go with Bellerin, but was very wrong about that. So I got 9 points, I think. So let us know in the chat box how many points you ended up getting this week in the game. And if you were late to the party, you can still join the league and be ready to gain some points ahead of the game against Chelsea. There's still time to catch up, but I feel like if you missed the first 2 games, you haven't got much chance of getting back up that table. So make sure you get involved before the season gets away from you. Let's get some of your thoughts and feelings as we await our first guest of the day. Let's go to Peter Renner, who says, not sure who would want the manager out with the team, with the state of the club that it is in, and how some of our fans behave on social media. Now, Peter, you raise a good point. I think that it is important to consider that at the moment, how we perceive the club to be is going to be different from person to person. And the reactions online of some are obviously very different. Now, I like to think that we put things across in a very different way. Now, this is interesting. And maybe you guys have an opinion on this, but I put a tweet out, obviously, this morning saying about that I was interested in doing a phone-in show. And then earlier on, we put out the thumbnail to say this is the kind of show that we were going to do. But what was interesting is that I had a couple of replies saying that the show's going down a different route and it's got an AFTV feel to it, if you like. It does interest me how any kind of suggestion of change, any kind of suggestion of wanting, not necessarily even wanting, but thinking and believing that the manager may be in need of a shift or a change, does then align you with a different sector or a group of people or a channel such as AFTV, that people kind of look at that as kind of the extreme end of the view. I perceive it to be that at times. I just don't think I would perceive just having the mindset that does align with some of the thoughts and feelings of the people there as being the same or being in the same camp. And I think that's really important to put forward, because I don't think it puts us in the same camp whatsoever at all. Like, my thoughts and feelings around AFTV are not wholly positive, but I wouldn't have a problem with falling in line with a couple of viewpoints that are shared on the platform just because I feel that way. In fact, I tweeted yesterday, was it yesterday or it might have even been this morning? I said it took me 26 years to learn that you can, like, changing your mind to an opinion that aligns yourself with people that you don't necessarily like isn't a bad thing. And it's not. And I think that that's something that's really hard to get over, and say there's people in your life that you're aware of that have an opinion that you now start to agree with, but you're reluctant to kind of say that you feel that same way because of your personal feelings towards someone or something or a group or whatever. I think it's something that's important that people need to kind of get over and really move on from. Just because my view on Arteta has changed, maybe it aligns myself in the same way as some other people who either I'm not the biggest fan of, or you guys are not the biggest fans of. Doesn't mean that it's not either, in my opinion, the right opinion or the right choice. It doesn't mean that I'm extremely reactionary as well, because I feel like it's taken me a fairly long time to come to this view. It's not like I was calling for the manager's head as soon as he was appointed. It's literally come after a season and a half. It's been 18 plus months until I came to kind of my viewpoint changing on Arteta. So that is a little bit of a strange one, but who knows? We'll try and make sense of it. Anyway, we're going to try and get some of our fantastic guests on throughout the show and get some of their thoughts and feelings too. Let's go to Yo-Yo says, ignore the hate, Tom. People want to stay comfortable in their echo chambers. And the word echo chamber is certainly something that's kind of been put forward to this channel in the past. Ironically, the channel's been called an echo chamber previously because of it being kind of very pro-Arteta. I remember doing podcasts with Drew and John and Owen, and we all shared the same view on things. And it was important that we changed that. And I remember then having a conversation with Dan Potts at a time during the season where we didn't agree. Now, I thought the conversation that I had with Dan was excellent. And Dan's very good at putting across his points of view, in my opinion. I think if you want someone to go to about an opinion on the manager, Dan's a great person to talk to about that. We didn't agree on lots of points, but I thought it was a good discussion. And then in yesterday's podcast with Sophie, now me and Sophie have had lots of disagreements in the past about things about the manager, about players, about lots of things. And yet yesterday we managed to talk, and I'm definitely I've leaned certainly more towards her way of thinking. And it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that changes the way in which we look at the manager going forwards in the situation that we find ourselves in. Let's go to Graham, who says, I was well up for Mikel Arteta to come in at first, but now I just find him arrogant and stubborn. Everyone else in the football world can see it, but not him. And I do think there are some things that have gone at the club that certainly do give an opinion that it seems a little bit stubborn in certain circumstances. Look, I still pray that Arteta turns things around, because if he turns things around, it's to the benefit of Arsenal. And that's always the primary. That should be your primary and anyone's. That say you don't like the coach, and let's put it into an even more extreme context. I can't stand Jose Mourinho. I can't stand the man. And yet, if he was to become Arsenal head coach, I'd want him to succeed, because I don't care about being right or wrong about someone as long as Arsenal were winning. I couldn't care less whether or not a player that I didn't say, Houssem Aouar. You guys know my feelings around Houssem Aouar. I have a lot of reservations about the player. I'm not sure he's the right guy for us to go for. If he comes in and smashes it, I'll be buzzing to be wrong. Absolutely thrilled to be wrong about him. And he'll change my mind on him. And I'll look back and go, look, it was a mistake. And I'll hold my hands up. I was wrong. We don't know if that's going to happen. We'll wait and see. But I would, if me being wrong means it's to the benefit of the club, that is always going to be the way in which I go for it. Absolutely. Colin says, Tom, you should invite Robbie or DT onto the show and speak with them. Look, we have people from AFTV come on. Judges comes on. I'll be joining. Of course, I know Mo's not part of AFTV anymore, but I'll be chatting with Mo tomorrow on the Arsenal Lounge. And look, it's not about specifics, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of my own feelings around it. And, you know, I've had issues with things that have gone on. I wouldn't personally ask either. DT used to come on to TGT a lot. I mean, back in the Craig days, it used to be me, DT, and Craig. I used to be on the shows, and, you know, things change. People change, and we move on, and it's not something that we linger with. So, you know, I'm not going to do that. But I'd certainly would. I would feel aggrieved at being aligned with a certain channel just because my views are changing or are slightly different. I wouldn't think that's a fair representation. Glenn says, hey, Tom, did you see the article from the Mail suggesting that the Mikel is doubting or doubling down rather on his philosophy to play out from the back, and the players are struggling to understand his instructions? No, I didn't. I don't know how you get that information. That's a really interesting one, isn't it? How would that seep out? I suppose through players moaning to maybe their agents and that getting out, or moaning to their friends and that getting out. I suppose that's a way that it would. But it's when things are bad, it's very easy to write stories which make things sound a lot worse than they are. I hope that makes sense. That's what I hope anyway, that it makes sense to you guys. Anyway, I'm hoping that some of our guests are going to be jumping on. You sit here and you do the thing about a phone-in show is that when you're not, tune into James O'Brien a couple of times on LBC, and the benefit James has, he's got this cast of producers. You got people ringing up and going and saying a lot of things. They've got to be vetted. I have to do this well ahead of time. I have to do sound checks with people and stuff, and then you have to sit here and pray that they turn up on time. And hopefully we're going to be joined by some people very, very soon. Fella says, Arteta seems to be unwilling to change. It's either his way or the highway. Just from yesterday's game, there was no one on the touchline assisting Arteta on a tactical perspective. And for me, anyway, I just think it's a simple case of going, he needs these people that are going to challenge him. We need people that are going to be there and saying, look, I'm not sure if that's the right choice, if that's the right decision, if that's the right person to be, or the right person to bring on, the right sub to make, or the right tactical move. He needs people that are going to challenge him. And I just don't feel like he gets that. I just don't feel like that's something that he's really got in his backing right now, if that makes sense. It's really is difficult to look at a coach that's very inexperienced and say, you need someone that's going to challenge you, because you're worried that maybe you'll become undermined in that. Anyway, let's bring on our first guest of the day. And by the way, it's been entirely my fault why the guests haven't been showing up, because I've been sending them the wrong link. That's what I've been doing. So that's my fault. Shania, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Apologies for my own ineptitude in sending you the... How are you, mate?
I'm doing very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well. I was good until I realised I was sending both. And Chris will be joining us in a few minutes as well. Both of you I sent the wrong link to, like a consummate professional. So he gets a job in media and then forgets how to send links to people. That's how it works.
Oh, don't worry, mate. Next thing you know,
go on, mate. Go on.
I said, next thing you know, we might want you out as well.
Yeah, you never know. Tom out. Hashtag Tom out in the chat. Let's get it trending. Anyway, we're here to talk about Arteta. We're here to talk about the viewpoint that people are standing on it. What's your current kind of feeling around the situation and the manager? What's your current feeling, Sheila? Can you hear me? Have you got?
So I'm going to be.
Sorry, there's a delay. I'm now going to look like I'm interrupting you. There's a delay. Ignore that. Just give me your thoughts, fella.
It's okay. Okay, all right, mate. Okay, I'm going to be completely 100% honest here. After the Villarreal game last season, I was Arteta out. Then I had to, I took a step back and I thought about the whole current situation of the club. And I thought about what he's actually done. So the major thing for me is he's cancelled the contracts of Ozil. He's cancelled the contracts of players like Mustafi as well. He's got them off the wage bill. That's one of the major things. Yeah, one of the major things that a lot of our fans were actually complaining about is actually done. I personally think more players would have had their contracts cancelled this summer as well, if it wouldn't have affected our spending this summer also. I think the major thing for me is a lot of the youth players that we've got, our key players that we've got in the future, they actually do trust Arteta. So the likes of Tierney, he's actually extended his contract. Saka has as well. Obviously, Smith Rowe also. I know his form's not currently the best at the moment, but signing Aubameyang up to a new contract was probably one of the most major signings last season, and that was all down to the manager, because they saw his vision for the future of the club. I'm not saying that he's the best. Completely. I understand that he makes his mistakes, like we all do in life. But the way how the club are, we just need to keep on going forward. And if to sack him right now would be me personally, I think it would be the wrong thing for us to do, because it just takes us a couple of steps back again. We just need to keep on going forward. I know it's a tough situation. We are going through hell at the moment, but we might as well go through hell together than just keep on stopping and starting.
I hear what you're saying, mate. I've been in that corner of saying, like, the contract situations. I think that's great, and I think Edu deserves credit for it as well. That the players that they've signed up to new deals, and it's something that we struggled with in the past. Definitely, the problem for me is Shania, that I look at the form and I look at how we're playing, and no matter how many players we sign up to new deals, that I don't know if that's going to change what's happening on the pitch. What's giving you that confidence to say, look, I think we should still? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing that makes you think that, that it's going to change on the pitch and our fortunes are going to change?
Well, to be honest with you, that first game of the season, how many of our first team players are actually unavailable?
Sure.
They've had I think it was 5 first team players unavailable.
So you had Aubameyang, Lacazette, Partey, Gabriel, and I mean, you talk about maybe the right back. Saka, I suppose, was on the bench as well. You can mention that.
But sure. You could say that also as well. Rob Holding to be. He was majorly missing on Friday as well. So I had to think something in Australia. So it's Saturday morning here, so it's Friday night. Yeah. So they would have made a difference against any team, So that's what I think. Also, to be honest with you, we are in a results business. So the most important thing is probably the results. Really, I don't really care how we play as long as we get the 3 points. To be honest, if you look at how England played in the summer, no one really cared about how they played as long as they won and they kept on going and going. Yeah. So as long as we get the 3 points and keep on going and going, that's the most important thing. And Arteta, I think he's good at getting the points when it is time, when the pressure is on.
The thing is for me is that I understand the point of not having the players available, but to me, I can't see it changing even with them there, Shania. I can't see it being drastically different because of the style, because of look at the end of last season. Like, how many times did we look like we weren't going to score, or we got very fortunate in certain situations? And people, I think, point a lot to maybe those last 5 games that we won in a row and saying, look, and we had the second best form in the table. I did it. I was guilty of saying those things. But I look back on and actually analyze the season. The 5 games that we won at the end of the campaign, I think, skew things slightly, because the 5 games prior to those 5, we won just 1 of those 5. And if you look at the 8 games before that collection of 10 games at the end of the season, we won just 3 of those 8. So in the actual reality of that second half of the season, despite actually being and having the second best form, I think it was more down to the fact that other teams in the league were struggling to pick up points so much that those big 5 wins at the end of the season really did push us up that form table. Do you see where I'm coming from when I'm kind of concerned that the system and the dynamism, the creativity that we're lacking isn't changing when we've got players available that we were missing on Friday?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So why then does not a new manager change that for you? Why does then the prospect of changing the coach, where that could then change, why do you not think that's the right choice right now?
Okay, but who would we get in at this current situation? Who did we get in?
I'd say Conte's available.
Are we really going to pay the money for Conte? And is he going to come into our club?
That's the thing, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that it's fair enough saying, oh yeah, this guy's available, that guy's available. We our clubs with tight asses, to be honest with you. We're not going to spend any money.
Are you saying we shouldn't change because we can't trust what that change might be? Is that the only reason why you wouldn't change the coach? Because you can't trust the decision that would come following his sacking?
No, I said not to change the coach, because it's a process. I know it's going to sound so cliche, but just
it's fine. You say what you want.
It's going to sound so. But that's what we're going to have to do. It's going to be hard. We've already spoken about this years ago when Arsene Wenger said that this whole squad needs a whole overhaul, and it's going to take time. And that's the thing. I don't think a lot of our fans actually want to take the time to actually do something. They'll prefer that to be Man City and have a sugar daddy and just spend 200-300 million in 2-3 summers, and then that's it. Everything's over. But unfortunately, we're unable to do that. So we're going to have to go through the slow process and just grind it out. It's going to be hard, but that's what we're here for at the end of the day.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. I can't get on board with it just yet to say let's grind it out, because I think the club's in such a situation where we need decisiveness that we've lacked previously. I feel like we got into this situation because the club's not decisive enough, and that came with the Emery situation and not getting rid of him earlier, and the Wenger situation, in my opinion anyway, not moving Wenger on earlier enough. So I don't want to fall into that trap for a third time in a row, if that makes sense. And if I feel like the club aren't moving forwards, which I don't on the pitch, yes, I think you're 100% spot on in regards to contracts and the signing up of players and the signings that we're making. That's improving. But what's actually happening in the results business that this is, I struggle to see where we're moving forwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sweet. Oh, Shunai, it's been a pleasure to have you on, mate. I really appreciate it. We're going to get to Chris now, but thank you, mate. I hope you tune in back again, and we'll have you back on the show soon.
Definitely will do. Excellent.
Thanks,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one. We're now going to be joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Yeah, good and well. Very, very good to listen to Shunai and yourself.
Sorry about the little slight delay. Again, my fault in sending wrong links out. Classic T.
I'm wondering how you do it, Tom. You're speaking and sending links.
It's multitasking to the max, mate. That's what it is. Anyway, you've heard there what Shunai said, and of course what I've been saying there too. Tell me, I know. First of all, give me kind of your standpoint on the managerial situation, of where you're at with Arteta.
So where I'm at with Arteta is this, again, without sounding cliche, this is a process. He's actually
again this whole thing about cliche, like don't feel like you're sounding cliche. It's your opinion. It's not a cliche.
Okay. So my opinion is that he came in to this hot seat, and he's been quite open and honest from the get-go. It's going to be a process. You know, he's not got the players he wants. There's a lot of issues that are going on with the club that he's kind of come in to try and deal with, bearing in mind that, yes, this not being an excuse, that he's actually, this is his first appointment. So I know there's been a lot of people that have said, you know, he's that's not an excuse, and Arsenal aren't a feeder club or a kind of a learn as you go club. But at the same time, he's come into this position, he's tried and tested a lot, and he's made a lot of mistakes. But we can't be in a position where we keep chopping and changing. We need that foundation. We need that stability. Now, there's been a lot of changes, as you know, and you've reported on, like with Raul Sanelli leaving, and then, you know, the changes in management, and then Arteta coming in as a head coach initially, and then being promoted to manager, which was a big mistake, by the way. But anyway, and to double back, sorry, I didn't say this initially. I wasn't actually his biggest fan of him coming on. So after we sacked Unai Emery, I wanted someone who was more established, who can actually bring in that experience and mold the team. Because Unai Emery, I don't think he done the job that we expected, of course, hence he got sacked. But Arteta, now he's come in, you've got to give him time. You've got to give him time, but he needs to deliver on the pitch. Of course, results-driven business. We're not liking some of the stuff we're seeing, but it's not after one game you just get rid of him.
Do you not this? Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I think you're putting forward a point of view that a lot of people in your corner would have been putting forward, and I've seen it on Twitter, that you don't sack a manager after one game of a new season. Now, I in my perspective, I come from the point of view that it's not one game. I come from the perspective that it's 18 months plus, if that makes sense. Chris, can you still hear me? Because your screen's gone black.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
You can hear me. That's the main thing.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. I can hear you.
Okay.
In terms of, like, for me, it's not just one game. It's 18 plus months. And yes, we won an FA Cup in that time. And I certainly was on the camp of saying that's a really amazing achievement. I don't think that where the situation that we're in now diminishes that FA Cup achievement. That's still great. But building on from that, we didn't do. We didn't build on from that. And we, again, finished 8th in the table. And I don't think it's fair to say that he's had just one game this season. You don't sack, because if things aren't working, in my view, you have to change something.
Of course,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course, and also we listen.
Oh, he's gone. No. We'll get Chris back. We will get Chris back as soon as possible. Hold on. This isn't me censoring him, I promise you. I'm sending him another link. I'm hoping he gets back in. I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully we get him back. Let's just see what some of you guys are saying in the chat box. T-Bot, yes, and a community shield. He did win a community shield. Mohammed says, a lot of people keep saying sack Arteta. Then what? What do we do after sacking him? Who will you appoint? Big Sam, tell me which world-class manager will come here. And this is one of the big kind of opinions that does come out in response to us asking and saying, when he goes, who do you bring in? there is a good argument to say that it's not down to us to decide that, and it is down to the club to bring someone in. But if you really are desperate for names and you want me to suggest someone, to say that Antonio Conte is not there and available would be naive. He is there. He is available. He is a manager that is out there. Would he come to Arsenal? That's a hypothetical question. And it's got a hypothetical answer because we don't know. But the fact is that he is available. So there's no point writing it off. There's no point dismissing the fact that Antonio Conte is not possible because we don't know that for a fact. You can't sit there and tell me Conte is never going to come to Arsenal because it's hypothetical. But the fact is that he's there. I would also argue that there are managers that aren't always available that you get out of their contracts. How many times have you seen big clubs take managers from teams? How many times have managers had their contracts paid off, bought out, so that they can come in? It's not always about who's available. This is in my opinion, weak way of trying to argue that we may as well stick with what we've got because we can't get a good replacement. I don't think that's true. I think there are coaches like Conte that are out there, whether you think they'd come to Arsenal or not, but there is always managers that you can bring in to the team. So, and anyway, I'm going to ask Chris. Hopefully Chris is back and he can answer our questions. Chris, are you there, mate? Can you hear us, son? There he is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Apologies.
Neither do I. Well, basically, we kind of caught you halfway through, but we did get onto talking about something, and I think maybe you will have an opinion on this as well, is that one of the arguments put forth is to say that we shouldn't get rid of Arteta because what happens then? Like, who do we get? Like, where do you stand on that as a position coming from someone that thinks that he should continue? Is that something you would buy into, is to say that, hey, who are we going to go and get if we go and get rid of Arteta?
Not at all, because this happened. This same argument was presented by a lot of my friends when it came to the Wenger out situation. They're like, "Oh, who are you going to get that's better than Wenger?" There's always going to be a manager out there, or a manager who's maybe not as experienced as Wenger, or some of the other ones like the Klopps of this world. There's still going to be someone out there. That philosophy or the implementation of their philosophy is going to be beneficial to Arsenal. So there's always going to be someone. Wenger was an unknown when he came in, but I think that's not the right thing to do right now. He's had this transition period. There's 18 months in the grand scheme of things. It's not enough to change the fortunes of a football club when you got to consider that loads of players were actually being shipped out. We know the whole Kolasinac, Ozil, Mustafi. All of these players that can't get into our team. Well, as I mentioned to you, I think it's a results business, so I'd say you have to give him 10 games in the Premier League. Give him 10 games, see what his performances are like. If there's an uptick because players are off at the moment and they've got to come back in, then you give him longer. However, if we're struggling to perform, we're not scoring enough goals, we're conceding a lot, and we're losing. Like, just say we lose 5 out of the next 10 games, he has to go.
Fair enough. There is a slight delay, by the way, Chris. So if you see me talking and there's a bit of a gap between you speaking and me, it's because there's a bit of a delay. Let me just grab a quick a super chat from Chris P, who says, okay, something positive, not just justification. Winning against Big Six teams has increased under Arteta. Does that show some progress? We obviously have won against Big Six teams, Chris, and that is certainly something that I have praised the manager for changing for us, is the fact that he has managed to get progression against these sides that previously we struggled against. We did the double over Chelsea last season. We won at Old Trafford. These are things that have improved under Arteta, absolutely. But the thing is that we still do drop points in these crucial games against teams that you would argue on paper we should be beating. So whilst I can see us progressing in these games against Big Six teams, the problem is for Arsenal is that across the board we need to be picking up points against all the teams. So do you think that he's done enough with what he's done against the Big Six teams, despite those issues against those lower table oppositions, to justify staying in longer? Because you said there, how long does he get? And that's, for me, is the crux of this. I don't know how long you give him, because I'm not sure how long Arsenal can afford to give him, if that makes sense.
If he doesn't produce the results, then there's no argument. He has to go. But the transfers that he's brought in, he's looking to build a younger team, a fresher team with more enthusiasm, more energy. Only difficult point I have is that none of the first teamers have changed. You've still got Xhaka in there, who, to me, most of our problems are around that central midfielder position. If Xhaka comes out and you have a more dynamic, and you've mentioned it in your previous videos about the technicality, someone who can actually evade the pressure and then transition us into attack. If you get someone like that, he had a bid in for Locatelli early in the transfer window. If that was over the line, then so it's all about his the results that come up. But yeah, I'd give him 10 games. See how he performs over those 10 games. See if you can find managers that are willing to take on this challenge, because it is a challenge. Let's be honest. It's not a walk in a park. Arsenal are being mismanaged from the top down, and I was even watching just the Newcastle versus West Ham game, and the way that they just take the ball and carry it. Xhaka's never done that since putting on an Arsenal shirt. He's never done it, and it's just that is what we're lacking.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, mate. I really do, Chris. And I get frustrated with players as well. But obviously, the manager does pick those players. And that's always going to be kind of the thing that comes back, is that the manager's picking the players that we're saying are good enough for him, and he isn't trying other options. So I suppose that's a bit of an issue. Anyway, Chris, we're gonna wrap things up there with yourself. Thank you so much. There is going to be a delay from me saying goodbye and you saying thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity. But thank you ever so much, mate. And this is now where I wait for your response, and then I'm going to let you know.
No problem.
Massive thank you to Chris for helping us out. Let's bring in our next guest. And Kunjan, how you doing, mate? Are you well?
I'm good, buddy. Good to see you, and good. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, mate. I complimented you earlier when we did the sound check on your shirt, but I'm going to do it again. It is a very nice shirt behind you. I'm hoping that you can respond to me almost immediately, whereas for Chris, absolutely fantastic words from Chris there, but the delay was hilarious at times. Fair play to Chris for coming on, and I'm sure he's getting a lot of love in the chat box as well. But Kunjan, so tell me about your position. I'm sure you heard a little bit there about what Chris had to say, and on Arteta. He feels he should be given at least 10 games. I don't know when you kind of cut the cord. I don't know if you say, look, after 10 games, is that enough? Or do you have to kind of assess the next 4 games? Where do you stand on Arteta?
I think, okay, first of all, I do want Arteta to continue his tenure with Arsenal. Many reasons why. And about cutting the cord, this may be very controversial, but I think give him this season. Give him 1 season. There's a lot of reasoning behind this. And we can start with the whole transition post-Wenger leaving. When we got Unai Emery, we were linked with Arteta, if you remember. Arteta was actually one of the front runners, and I think Unai Emery threw his hat into the ring quite late, and because of his CV, because of what he'd done with Sevilla, what he'd done with even PSG, despite it not working out with PSG, but Emery was a very strong contender, and we got Emery on. If you remember Emery's first window, I think there wasn't any big names that came in. We had the Guendouzi's that we know of today. We got Torreira. Lichtsteiner. Lichtsteiner. But we didn't have something to jump up and down about. Was Socrates him, or was that a Wenger signing?
No, Socrates. So in Emery's first year, Lichtsteiner was signed before he was appointed, and then Socrates basically came in shortly after, and then I think Emery did, and then Torreira came in, and then Pepe came in at the end of the window.
Pepe was right towards the end when we were told be excited, and then Pepe came in.
Did Pepe come in the year after? I mean, it blends so much.
No, sorry, Pepe came in the year.
Pepe came in the year after. No, Pepe. I need to check this now. Oh man.
Pepe came in that window, because I remember this was our. You're right. No, Pepe came in the window after with the Adidas.
He came in with Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, with the Adidas. He came in with Tierney, because it was Tierney and Pepe right toward the end.
The first window was Lichtsteiner on a free. Guendouzi came in. Socrates came in. Bernd Leno is the player I forgot that came in.
Yes.
Torreira, and then Denis Suarez was signed in January, if you remember that. So,
yes, of course. But the point is, it was a very underwhelming window. All right, and I remember everyone was hyped up about Emery. They were like, this guy, this guy, that. And let's give Emery credit. I know we don't. We got to a Europa League final, and he did quite well in the league. I think towards the end we slipped off, which is why we ended up fifth that season. And then again, come the next season, we had the Pepes, the Tyrannies, and it was disastrous. It was disastrous. Like I remember the stat I read that we were having the most shots at goal in the whole league.
Yeah.
And that's when like again, you see there was a whole domino effect that happened because of that. Leno was phenomenal that season, despite what was happening. He got the injury at Brighton. Martinez took over, and we find ourselves in the situation today where we're looking for a backup goalkeeper when we actually had a potential number one sitting with us.
So
but
with all that info, I just want to kind of fast forward the situation.
Of course.
Why, based upon, because I'm assuming I was very what's the right word, apologetic, sensitive, accepting of the situation that Emery left the club in when Arteta took over. I think we can agree on that it wasn't a great position. But
no, it was terrible.
We are obviously 18 months plus after that point
with Emery, I think the tactics were not Arsenal. You know, like he came in
Arteta's tactics Arsenal right now.
No, of course, but Emery was very unfortunately is slightly better than Mourinho. The kind of tactics. It was very defensive, get on the counter. You know, it wasn't a high pressing. Like we saw that I think at Fulham when we won 5-1 or something, that there was some pressing, but even that stopped after a little while. It was more soak in the pressure. Arteta has a little bit. I think Arteta's, for lack of a better word, complicating the tactics.
Right.
And that's what I'm like. If you look at the players,
coach, not to complicate the tactics.
Of course, but that's something. With Arteta, right now, if you look at the players that have been signed and let go, like Saliba, everyone's like, why did Saliba go? But he's very aware. Maybe there's a friction between him and Saliba because there was a lot of talk when Saliba went on the loan spell to Nice, where he's like, the coach saw me for 2 minutes and did not give me an opportunity.
Sure.
But there was a lot of rumors that there were clauses with Saint Etienne about certain appearances, and if he made those appearances, we had to pay that money. Now, that is not an Arteta decision. That's come from the board. The board are saying, hey, man, listen, don't play him because we have to pay money. Apparently, Pablo Mari, his performance against Brentford, we had to pay €1 million to his previous club in Brazil. Apparently, again. So this is what I strongly believe. I think the problem has not been Wenger, has not been Emery, believe it or not, and is not Arteta. The problem stems from management. I think management have a certain focus, and that's why when you hear the
and you mean the ownership by management, right?
Ownership does bleed down to the management, because think of Ivan Gazidis, think of Raul Sanllehi, now think of Vinay and Edu. Why is it that everyone who's managed the club, not on the pitch, off the pitch, has not lasted? And if they have lasted, they've been very controversial. When you think of pre the Emirates in Highbury, when we had public ownership, why was it that Wenger was given a free hand to sign whomever he wanted? Wenger could very objectively and boldly go and get a Sol Campbell and parade him right in front of Highbury that this is our new signing. Yeah. Why was it that he brought in an Henry or a Perez? Like, because the ownership wasn't as staccato. He was in charge, and
David Dean, yeah.
And again, as soon as David Dean left, everyone has said that Arsenal went down. And with the Cronkies coming in, like I do understand why people are protesting, but Cronkies don't give a damn. For them, this is a business. This is a big cash cow. And if you look at the statistics over the last years, you'll see that I think it's what, 15 million pounds that Kroenke has put in ever since he's become
I don't
the
think they've
owner.
put anything in. I don't think they've put anything in.
But knowing Kroenke, he's put 15 million and pulled out 25. So
Sure, right. So overall, the net spend, as we like to
net
describe,
spend, yeah, there we go,
is negative. But let me press
Yeah.
you on this again, because you're
Yeah.
saying that you want Arteta to stay,
Right.
and I'm with you about the ownership. I'm with you about the executives. I'm with you
Right.
that the mistakes up top are being made in a poor way. But my argument is that Arteta has still got a team that is not performing to what I think it's capable of performing, or what maybe another coach could get them performing to. So the question is, why should I persist with a coach that I feel is not getting the best from those players?
So earlier you were speaking about Conte. Okay, fair enough. If Conte comes in, another name that is available, who no one talks about, is Zidane. Zidane's very available, and I think if a personality like Zinedine Zidane came to Arsenal, I think people would be kicked up their backsides to get the job done. But I think the problem comes from the top. The top are like, look, Zizou, you're going to be the coach. Do not question XYZ. You're not going to be given money. You're not going to be told that you can have a free hand. Zinedine Zidane left Real Madrid for the second time because of whatever reasons. Antonio Conte left Inter Milan for the obvious reasons. And we've seen that. They've sold Hakimi, they've sold Lukaku. All these managers will come with terms and conditions because they're winners. Pep Guardiola will never manage, for lack of I mean, I'm being respectful, but will never manage a Brentford. He wants to go to a club that has a thick checkbook and like, here you go, man, go make your signings. Go win us the league. Go win us the Champions League. Arteta is perfect for the mediocrity that we are right now. But if you observe his style, if you observe what he's saying, if you observe, people say he's arrogant and he's stubborn.
I would say
you're right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that, or you would say?
I would say that. Yeah.
You're right. He is. But I also feel, I'm sorry, I'm going to use this word. The philosophy is so strong. He's so bent upon certain things, and if that's not delivered, there's the door. I don't know what happened with Ozil. Was it an Arteta decision? As much as he took the bullet, as he said, "Here's my chest, hit me with it." I think that was not an Arteta decision. I genuinely do believe that. But he took it like a team player. He said, "Bring it on. I'll take the blame for it." Guendouzi, we know what happened, with this whole Brentford thing. He doesn't want bad eggs. Rumors are that Lacazette is not going to be featured in this season, and they want him out, and he's not happy about it. And because of that, his best buddy Aubameyang has gotten up and said, "But these are rumors, that hey, I'm going on strike until my friend's stuff is resolved over here." So what I'm saying is that I don't want to say he's losing the dressing room. But I do also feel that Tierney is a winner. He's a champion. You can see that. He gives 100% every time he's on the pitch. He's a winner. He will pick a fight with a trash can if possible. But Tierney wants to play for this man. Tierney has always advocated for this man. There must be something he's doing that you and I are unaware of. There's something good and something right he's putting his mind into, his heart into. We just don't see it. Unfortunately, the results are not saying the right stuff. If we, again, I'm going to start bringing up the usual stuff that is being thrown out there. But the second half of the season, when we were in relegation and we got an Odegaard in, the whole dynamic changed. His tactics against Villarreal, he should have been sacked for that. That was.
Oh, we agree.
because that was our only opportunity to get into the Champions League.
Right.
Playing a false nine, you're not Pep Guardiola. You don't have the personnel. Don't do it. But I think he owned up to it. He's understanding his mistakes. He's a young manager. He's 39. We forget how young he is. We forget that in 5 years back he was playing for us. And today he's managing us. We forget that. He's a very young man. He's come with his mentor is the greatest manager we've seen maybe forever. And you cannot build Rome in a day. I think if he has the right tools, and every press conference, Arteta is calling the board out indirectly, but he's calling the board out. He's like, I will work with what I have. I will coach the players to the best of my ability. He's not saying at any given point, I have the best players. There's no excuses. He's not saying that. He's not been given the right tools to deploy his ideas. And I think if this season he's given the tools, or not, and told, go, you have a season, prove yourself. We don't even know what the objectives are. The board may be like, don't get relegated and your job's good. Get us into top 10 and we're good. We don't know the objectives Arteta's been given. And that's what I'm saying, that if you're looking at it from a 2003, 2004 Arsenal fan, this is unacceptable. But if you're looking at it from a perspective of David Dean's gone, Arsene Wenger's gone, the Cronkies are the owners, and the Cronkies are not going to remove one penny into this club, and we have to be content. I don't see Arteta as the problem. I genuinely do not see a Conte or a Zinedine Zidane, even if a Jurgen Klopp or a Thomas Tuchel. When Tuchel was let go by PSG towards the end of last season, end of last year, there was a lot of rumors that we may be interested. I'm pretty sure Tuchel came to a Chelsea squad that had such good players that he didn't have to worry about. Yeah. And that's why maybe Lampard had to lose his job, because Lampard was told, go get the players you want, but win us something. And Lampard didn't.
Yeah.
Give me one window, including this one, where Arteta has got something good on his plate. Ben White is not. I'm more excited about Sambi Lokonga than I am about Ben White.
Yeah. Look, Kunjan, I'm very obviously time conscious as well, because we've got another guest that's waiting to come on. Yeah. That's fine. I will answer your question. In regards to the windows, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. Arsenal have not backed Arteta enough. And when I say enough, some people would say he's been given loads of money during this time. And you're not wrong. Lots of money has been spent. Partey, Ben White. We've spent 75 million this window already. We look like we could go over 100 million with Ødegaard coming in. Last summer, we spent upwards of 80 million as well. Look, we've spent money, but he needs more if he wants to compete. However, what I would say, Kunjan, is that I feel like the squad is better than an 8th place finish, and I feel like the perspectives of this season aren't looking great, and I feel like we could do more. It's a tough situation. I appreciate your opinions. I really do. I do have to move on to the next guest, Kunjan, but as the chat box has been lighting up with love for you, and your points being made, so there you go. Thank you ever so much, Kunjan. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem at all. Let's bring in our next guest, and I'm joined by Jazz Meats. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, though. I can't see you at all.
Oh, right.
You might have to click that camera button, and it might let you be able to see us.
All right. I think I will just continue with the audio for now.
Okay, don't worry about it. In terms of your position on Arteta, go for it. Tell me.
Well, I would like to be Arteta in for now. With all the negativity that has been going on, over Twitter and all over social media.
Yeah.
I think I would like to highlight some of the positives of Arteta. Well, for number one, he's already a winner. He's won us the FA Cup, and unlike a certain Pochettino, even at PSG, he seems incapable of winning anything. Until they have to bring Messi in, for him to have a fighting chance.
Okay.
So, jokes aside, but
sure, yeah, no, I was so listening into what you were saying. I was like, yep, you want to slam Pochettino? That's fine. You can do it.
Yes, okay. He's already winners the FA Cup, and well, that team that he took over from Emery, right? Okay, regarding Emery, the final straw I had for Emery was that game against Watford, where we considered like 30 overshots in that game. And that was pretty much done for me, because I'm not sure whether that was due to technical naivety or whether, the players were turning off on him. I think probably he lost that dressing room as well. So... that was the time I was Emery out, and for Arteta, he hasn't done anything that compels me to say that Arteta out as of now. All right,
okay. Let me put forward. I'm going to ask you one question, and then I said we've got one more guest, and we'll bring them on as well. I'm going to ask you one question based upon what you've said there. You said there you can't work out kind of what he's done to not say let's go. If I said to you that I feel like the club that he's currently got available to him is not strong enough, that or rather is stronger than the position that we are finding ourselves in, which is in eighth position. I feel like the tactics at the moment are really restrictive, and that we are not creating enough in the final third, despite having the likes of Smith Rowe, Saka, Pepe, etc. I feel like that we've got strikers like Alexandre Lacazette that have got the third best shot conversion of any striker in the league, and yet they're not scoring goals of a level that reflects that, and that's down to us creating a lack of chances for him. I haven't seen that improvement in the final third in the 18 months that he's been here. What is it that you see which means that he is going to change that going forwards?
All right. I think Arteta was brought in, for the medium to long term.
Yep.
Right. The good thing was he came in and won the FA Cup. That shows to me that he has the tactical nous, to win games, when it matters. And that definitely helped him, in my opinion.
Okay.
And, but what I can say is the players at the club is just not at the required quality. It's a damning thing. It's a damning thing to say, but a lot of the players, apart from Thomas Partey, Saka, Smith Rowe, a lot of the other players are just simply not up to the required level for us to be competitive.
Yeah.
When I say a player of quality, right? I was chatting in the Discord with some of the guys just now. I have 4 basic points that I would like to have a player with certain quality. The first one is P&P, the power and play. A player have to be the player with the power and play, right? And a player with the technical ability, player intelligence, and the mentality as well.
Does Saka not have that? Does Saka not have that? What you've just listed there?
Yes, Saka is getting there. Saka has pretty much the power and play, a good technical ability, the intelligence and mentality. That is why Saka is primed to become an elite player for me. And
so why isn't Arteta then getting more from him to create more for our strikers?
Saka just, for this season, Saka is still not at the required fitness level.
Sure, but he was available for all of last season. Do you not think? This is what I'm trying to say.
I think Saka did pretty much play a lot of the games for Arteta, especially towards the second half of the season. And I think Saka is a very good player. Lucky to have Thomas Partey, and without Thomas Partey, that midfield just lacks dynamism. And squad turnover is really paramount to start competing again. And it was always going to take 2 or 3 windows, to really revamp that squad. And this window is definitely critical.
I agree with you. I think this window is massively critical, and I don't think he's being supported in this window enough. But I still think there is an argument more kind of insular around the manager. Jasmine, I don't mean to be rude and chuck you off. We need to get our last guest on the show, but it's been a pleasure to have you on, mate. And I hope you come back. And I'm sure we'll see you in the Discord server as one of our brilliant members as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Much appreciate your time. Finally, bringing onto the show, making her debut is Abby. How you doing, Abby? Are you well?
I'm great, thanks, Tom. How are you?
Yes, very good, very good. Tell me, you were very enthusiastic about the idea of coming on the show. I think, is this a first? How many pods have you been on before?
I've never been on any pods before, and in fact, it's crazy because you entertain me on my drive to work every morning. So and the fact that I'm talking to you is just crazy. So yeah, thanks.
So entertain is a loose word. I'm sure it's my own mistakes, which meant, as you saw earlier on, I've pushed Abby coming onto the show a little bit back because of the amount of wrong links I've sent out. Thankfully, Abby got the right one. Tell me your position, Abby, on Arteta. Where are you at with him right now?
Okay, so with me, I think I've got a little bit of FOMO with Arteta because I do believe that if he was to leave us, or when he is to leave us, he is going to go to a really, really good club and do really amazing. So I am a little bit conflicted at the moment because I honestly believe that once everybody gets it right at Arsenal, that the players get his philosophy and all the puzzle pieces start fitting together, it's going to be amazing. He's proved that in the games where we have been amazing. You know, when we beat Chelsea at Christmas, you know, when we beat Man United, yes, it was a 1-0 and we held them off, but we held them off like so well. There have been so many games where he has proven himself and the players have proven himself, but it hasn't been consistent. Now, I don't know if that is down to Arteta or if that is down to the players.
Well, let me argue that it is, and then maybe you can come back. So let's say the Arteta at the moment, of course, as we've seen, has had, I think, a very decent team available to him for much of the season. But it's not as good as I'd like it to be, and there's a lot I would improve about it. But if you think last season, especially kind of in the first half, he still had a lot of what Emery had, plus he had the additions that we made, like Gabriel coming into defence, which was a centre-back we desperately needed. It was the first time we'd really bought a centre-back of real quality in 10 years. And yet, we still weren't able to really, with still Aubameyang and Lacazette, and I know players that like Saka still available, Pepe still there, who he was reluctant to play and played Willian for a lot of that first 6 months when I really would have preferred him not to. We lacked kind of that verve in the final third of the pitch. We go into the kind of the next half of the season and we find it a bit because Smith Rowe emerges and because we bring in Erdegaard and that changed things for us a bit. We still finished 8th. And for me, the Villarreal games and the Europa League run, which we were fortunate to get to the semis anyway. If we think back to the Benfica game, we were lucky to go through in that round. Olympiacos, we could have thrown it away at a couple of stages as well. And we get to the Villarreal stage and we...
capitulate.
Yes, that's a great word to use. We capitulated. And that for me is that mental fragility that's not been solved, that's been there for years and years and years. And I just, for me, need to see more change from a coach after 18 months. And that's the issue for me and why I'm much more open to the idea of changing coach right now.
Yeah, we do need to see like him adapt, I think, to other ways. His philosophy is so strong. And I love the fact that he has that philosophy. It's very Wenger type, really, and it does show that he has come up through Wenger, but the game has changed, and it changed while Wenger was in as well, which is unfortunately why we saw the back of Wenger, because he didn't change with it. So I do understand why Arteta is sticking by this philosophy. I think the beginning of last season, I do honestly believe there were a lot of players that let him down, and I think he, again, one of the reasons I do like Arteta is he put so much trust into them. And I like the fact that he does trust them, because the players that he has trusted, like the Sakas and, Smith Rowe, when he came in, have really paid that back to him. But our more older players, our more experienced players, have let him down. And I think he was guilty of giving them too much trust. Why? I think he needs, oh my gosh, I'm going to sound like everybody else that's been on, but
I've said this every time. This is your opinion. Say your opinion. Don't be worried about cliches and all of this. Say what you think. Yeah.
Well, I'm a loyal person, so I'm going to I really need to just stick by him. I do. But I think also this reaction, and maybe this podcast is it just not just down to one game? Yes, we messed up over Brentford, and I saw it, and it's not good. But if we beat Brentford 3-0, like I predicted, would we be sat here now? So are we not judging him on this one game? Pre-season, I saw good things in pre-season. I saw more better things in pre-season than I did against Brentford.
Of course.
Okay, but Brentford, we were missing an excuse again. Four key players.
I hate that word. It really does, and it's not your fault, because unfortunately that word, the word excuse, has been put into your mind by people that want to force their agenda, and then when anything in the opposite sense comes their way, it's like the equivalent of saying fake news. That is effectively what saying excuse is. It's not an excuse. You're providing a reason as to why we weren't as good, and there's nothing wrong with providing a reason for why we weren't as good. Now, my issue with what you've said there is not down to excuses or the reasons you've given. The thing for me in saying that kind of the whole, this is just one game, is because for me it isn't. And my opinion at the end of last season was any other club after an 8th place finish and being frankly embarrassed in a Europa League semi-final against a side that we should have progressed through, that were coached by our former manager, I was happy to say, look, I think this was a good time to move on, and any other club in the same situation as us, I think probably would have done the same. And that's why when I go into this first game of the season and we lose 2-0, my opinion on the manager doesn't change based off that. You're right in saying if we'd have gone and won 3-0 and an amazing performance, we wouldn't. And you're right, we wouldn't, but we didn't. And that's why we are having this discussion. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But the fact that they haven't sacked him, okay, the fact that, players, copious amounts of players have come out and spoken about their desire to play for him and the reasonings why. I mean, we all talk so highly about Tierney, okay, and yet Tierney speaks so highly about Arteta. We've got players who want to stay at the club for him, despite the fact that we finished 8th, 2 seasons in a row. I do think Arteta is having to work within a system that was corrupted years and years ago, okay, and it's almost like he's doing the best of a bad job at the moment. Yes, better signings it will help the situation. I mean, if we had, the signings that we all craved for, and they were able to play on Saturday, so like your Madisons, your Odegaards, your Aarons. Sorry.
Aaron. Don't blame me for that. That's the Norwich fans who came on this show and told me off for saying Aaron. So,
well, I'm blaming you for liking Arteta in the first place. So, if we'd had those, would we have lost? We wouldn't have. But we're working in such, with constraints, or he's working with constraints, but not for him, because we haven't been able to get the necessary products in to do a better job. He hasn't got the tools. Well, that's what I think anyway. So
no, and that's fine, and that's the point of the show, is to get your opinion. And the thing is for me is that we put forward these reasons, as yourself and all of the other guests have put forward these reasons to say, let's stick with him. And I think a lot of that is down to loyalty and I love the way that you used FOMO to describe it, because I get that all the time with coaches and with players. I've got it right now with Joe Willock, absolutely frantically panicking. He's going to go off and score 20 goals this season, even though I've said that I think 25 million was probably a deal that we couldn't really afford to turn down right now. But I've still got FOMO about Joe Willock going to Newcastle. For me, the whole point of me doing this show was to, find out the perspective of people like yourself that are still willing to kind of carry on with Arteta and find out why you got that view. But also, as someone that has been on this channel a long time saying that I feel like Arteta is the right man, and frankly, I do feel a little bit embarrassed at times for what some of the performances we've put on, and I've still defended him at times. And it is, I think embarrassing is a fair word to use at times when you have such a forthright view and it really does backfire in your face. But the issue is for me now is I'm struggling for someone to convince me or to just change my mind and to get me back where I was and say, look, Arteta is still the guy. And I'm not sure anyone can give me that right now. That's the issue.
No, I don't think they can until you see, like, I think that we can only be judged on our last performance as well. And I honestly think that if our last performance had been brilliant, once again, we might not really be sitting here. We'd be like, oh, look, he's actually got his philosophy going. Oh, this is great. And he gave the youth a chance. Well, we gave the youth a chance for some reason.
We wouldn't, you're right. But we did lose, and I have to keep bringing us back to that. So it's.
But mate, we got Chelsea at the weekend, so
we do, and I feel like there's a real risk of us losing those next 2 games and being arguably bottom of the table. And at that point, you turn around and I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question, which I hate doing. But are you going to be of the mind after, let's say, we lose to Chelsea and City, and say, well, it was Chelsea and City? Is that? Because for me, that I don't think that's going to convince anyone to change their mind about Arteta if we do go and lose those games.
No, because we have a good track record against Chelsea. We do. So
last season we did,
if we don't at least get a draw against Chelsea, I think I will be a bit mad. I think for me, it's coming down to the performances of the individuals. I felt against Brentford, it was a little bit frantic. I mean, I have my doubts about Aubameyang and Lacazette at the moment anyway, and I have done all season. And I was so excited to see Balogun and Martinelli play, but the whole thing was just a little bit disconnected and a bit frantic. Now we've got a week where supposedly neither of them are going to be playing. He's got a week now just to iron out some of those creases and to get these players working together. However, if Balogun is starting and so are the others, but we have a nice excuse at the same time.
Oh, here we go.
I'm sorry. I'm
no,
sorry.
it's fine. I don't think my mind is going to change on the manager
No, it's
until there is a genuine argument for him to stay. And right now, I think that whilst yourself and everyone else who's come and has spoken brilliantly about their position, it's just, again, it's not the reasons that I need to change my mind. And I think that's fine. Like, the thing is, people get very offended these days about someone either not having the same point of view as them or of arguing with someone that's not going to change their mind. And I'm guilty of that now, I suppose. But I am going to maybe need more evidence, and maybe we go and beat Chelsea and City, and then we reconvene and have a conversation. I'm sitting here going, "Oh, Arteta's the best manager in the world," and that's maybe where we'll be after those two games. I doubt it. But
what if we beat Chelsea, draw against Man City, but get beaten, by Burnley or Norwich?
I think that shows kind of the situation that we're in and have been, is that we have these moments of improvement against the big six sides, like we showed last season against Chelsea twice, against Man United away from home. And even though we lost to Liverpool and City in both games, I thought we saw improvement in both of those games. But the thing is that, as you say there, we can lose like we did to Brentford and lose to Norwich or lose to Burnley or lose to whoever, and it then brings us back down again. And that's the thing for Arsenal. I think under Arteta is we're struggling for consistency, and we're struggling for kind of his ideas to really be seen on the pitch by the players at his disposal. I do think he was given the hard end of a stick with Emery when he left and what was left available to him. But I think that maybe a different, more experienced coach could have got more from the situation and could have done better in these last 18 months.
Yes, definitely. A more experienced coach, like people are mentioning Conte. And you get Conte, and I do believe he would, do a good job of these players within the season. But I don't see it lasting, and I don't see
why.
I'd be worried because it's Conte. I think he'll be out the door. I think he'll ask for more money.
Do you not think that's more Chelsea than Conte, though? I know that he went out the door at Inter Milan, but there was predicated a lot on their financial situation, and I feel like if they'd have backed him, he would have stayed after winning the title with them. Do you not think there's part of that Chelsea kind of maybe thing seeping through that through?
No, because I think Conte will. Sorry, I think Conte will see the fact that the board needs to spend more money. In order, if they want this team to start winning things, not just get into top four, but start winning, then we do need to spend, because everybody else is spending. You can't avoid it. Nobody's going to spend any.
We're not going to spend that, and that's for me is one of the big arguments as well, is that we're not going to spend the level of City and United and Chelsea. But the thing is we can spend the level of Liverpool, and we could do, because they don't have people backing them. We can spend to the level of Leicester, and the problem is that we've not been doing that. And I'm not saying that's down to Arteta, and that's not his fault. The people behind him haven't made the best decisions, and he took over a squad that was disjointed. And I talked a lot with Sophie yesterday. I don't know if you tuned in for the show with Sophie last night.
Yeah.
But we talked about the fact that we kind of lack that really experienced head in the team. Like Liverpool have got your Milders and your Hendersons, Man City's have got your Fernandinhos, and United's have got, I suppose, by bringing in someone like Maguire, who's very experienced in the Premier League now as well. Like, we don't have those kind of fulcrums. I suppose Man United, you've also got your Juan Matas, etc., obviously very experienced, but we don't really have that. And when we did have them, or rather when we bought experienced players like Willian, it backfired, or David Luiz had that dressing room mentality but lacks the real ability to be consistent on the pitch. And now we're looking at a team that has its two most experienced players, Aubameyang and Lacazette, don't look happy, don't look like they're playing very well, and could leave. And that leaves us in a situation where we could have a really disconnected group by the end of this season, maybe the start of the next.
Definitely. And I think the Brentford game kind of showed that as well. It was, they are, for as bad as Aubameyang has been, in my opinion, over pre-season and stuff, he is still, the club captain and somebody who's been there for a long time. And that, there has to be a bit of a shock factor there. You're putting in a very inexperienced striker, and the only striker we had as well, with Nketiah injured and stuff. So, I mean, it was definitely disconnected. But time, Tom, that's what it needs. Okay, just give us a few more games. But ignore Man City and Chelsea, yeah?
Yeah.
They don't count. They don't count.
They do. They do count, and that's kind of that's the issue. And Look, I want nothing more than for Arteta to succeed. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And I wanted nothing more than for Emery to succeed. And of course, for Wenger to turn things around. There's nothing I want more than whoever's in charge and whoever's playing for Arsenal to win us games. Because everyone is secondary to the result of the club. That's always the primary. It's just, I'm not sure that the primary being the result is being improved by Arteta's presence. And until I either get more evidence as to why he should stay, which will only come in the form of results on the pitch, or a very, very strong argument from someone, which I just can't see right now, from anyone at all, anywhere. Whenever I tweet out and say, look, someone convinced me that Arteta is the right man, it is, as you've said, usually a case of either he needs more time, which is an absolutely fine response because Jurgen Klopp was allowed a lot of time, but it's not going to convince me in the present that it's going to change my mind on him. So it's a very difficult situation. Props to everyone that is very much sticking by this situation, and I respect the view. I'm just not on board with it right now, and I think that's just not going to change at the moment. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and you know, results win prizes at the end of the day, don't they? And it's results that are going to, turn us all around. Listen, I'm supporting him because I'm loyal. Well, yeah.
Points mean prizes is where we're at. Yeah. So, look, I think that we're going to get to a stage where it is going to be a case of going around in circles. And I think that both of us have got very strong viewpoints upon where we're at. And I don't think it's going to change. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Abby, to have you on the show, as it has been with all the guests. So I appreciate your time.
No worries. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 a.m. every day. Oh, God, that's another one. Thanks, Abby. We'll see you soon.
Take care, mate. Bye.
Have a good one. A massive thank you to Abby and all of our guests today for coming on the show and sharing their views on the manager. And it is genuinely a really difficult topic to discuss as someone that was really genuinely so set on Mikel Arteta being such a huge success, to the point where I myself would find making arguments that I look back on now and go, yeah, I'm not sure that I agree with even my own views back then. And that's the issue for me right now, is that until we see the evidence, which is very much like it could happen because I don't see him going anywhere. So there is the time for him to change my mind. But right now it's not. I'm not in the Arteta in camp, if you want to call it that. I don't like having labels on these types of things because I find them ridiculous and socially divisive. Divisive, that's the word. So look, at the end of the day, we hope things change. We hope things turn around. We hope that Arsenal can get points against Chelsea and City, no matter the unlikelihood. There is a lot more wrong with this club than just Mikel Arteta. That is for damn sure. And he needs, if he is going to have any chance of succeeding, genuine support from those behind him. And this transfer window has not seen that support brought to him whatsoever. We miss the attacking third. We miss creativity, and we've not added anything there so far. And it maybe looks like we could bring someone in Martin Odegaard. And while I like Martin Odegaard a lot, I'm not sure that he is a transformative figure quite like Bruno Fernandes would be for Manchester United in the same sense. But he is still improvement, as would a Maddison, as would any of kind of that area of the pitch. But I just can't see anything getting any drastically better right now unless there's a change. And that's why I have the view that I have. A massive thank you to Sunbloke, who's just joined up as a member. I think you've upgraded, Sunbloke, so I really appreciate your support as always, and I'm sure you'll continue to enjoy all of the extra stuff that's available to you now. I'll make sure there's a new link to the Discord server in the community tab. Now, I'm going to sit here and pray that somehow Man City turn this result around that I have been keeping one eye on throughout this game. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. And a massive thank you again to all of my guests who came on today and put their opinions across. And no, they weren't using cliches. They weren't making excuses. They were giving their thoughts, and they were giving their reasons and their explanation. That's what they were doing. So bully to anyone that wants to try and change the rhetoric of how someone speaks about their points of view. Fair play to all of them for coming on and speaking their minds. I will see you guys, as Abby said, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for 6 a.m. What am I doing? 8 a.m. for the transfer show, keeping you guys up to date with all the latest information. Please do go check out the Pick Your Team game by the Arsenal review and try and predict who Mikel Arteta might pick for the Chelsea game. I'm going to be joined by a few fantastic guests this week. Kevin Campbell's going to be on. Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast hopefully is too. So I've got some really good stuff lined up for you guys. I'm going to be joining the guys over at the Arsenal Lounge on their channel tomorrow. So if you want more of me, I don't know why, but if you do, you can find me there. See you guys very, very soon. Have a fantastic evening and the rest of your Sunday. And as always, up the Arsenal.